good news is that today there is a much more open conversation about mental well-being and mental wellness. And I'm really happy to hear that that has become a much more talked about subject. You know, it goes back to the other thing about the subject of death and illness seems to be so taboo and so off topic, or not, you know, a topic of conversation for people. I would put mental well-being into that, you know, same sort of quadrant as well. More and more, we're opening up about this. And one of the areas that we're hearing a lot of conversation around it is in the workplace. And I'm really glad to hear that, because mental well-being and financial well-being go hand in hand. You cannot have a highly productive 110% employee on the job if their brain is at home worrying about the finances. When you look at some surveys that have been done, and they've asked people what one of the biggest stressors is in their life, personal finances rise to the top. It happens. If you're worried about, can I pay the next electrical bill? Can I meet my mortgage payment? Whatever. You know, my wife, my husband spending too much money. I don't seem to have any control over it. These are all stressors. I'll share a little story with you that I heard that absolutely broke my heart. There was a young lady who was a teacher. She was at school one day. Somebody went to her classroom and asked her if she could please come to the principal's office. And she was kind of like, she didn't know why she was going to the principal's office in the middle of her class. So a substitute teacher stepped in and she went. And when she walked into the principal's office, there was an individual there she had never met before, had no idea who it was. And it was a representative from the company that they leased their car from, who was coming to repossess her car and take the keys from her because the lease hadn't been paid for the last 3 months. So sometimes people aren't even aware of what's going on at home, but it's becoming more and more prevalent that productivity is slipping inside of companies because of employees that are bringing their financial troubles to the job. And it's very interesting to see how the insurance industry itself is reacting to this problem. There's a very large company that I think has done a great job this year of putting the focus on the whole mental wellness issue by increasing their group benefits from $1,000 per member of the family to $10,000 for mental health issues. That's not just a little titch up, you know, by 10% or whatever. That's a significant investment in their own employees in order for them to help to have financial and mental well-being come together. Surveys have shown that there's often 3 key stressors when it comes to finances with people. It's their personal and household finances, it's budgeting, and the other one is unexpected expenses. So if you take the first one, personal and household, goes back to my example. If you don't know if you can meet the mortgage payment the next month or the rent, that's a stressor. That is a key stressor. A lot of people don't know how to budget. They don't know where to start. It overwhelms them, so they don't do it. Unexpected finances. We're living in a world where people are sandwiched into the sandwich generation. They might not be an unexpected finance to them, but they might be caring for an elderly parent. They might have to take time off work to be a caregiver to someone who's ill. More and more people are outliving their retirement savings, and our parents are moving back in with their kids. Not always the kids moving back in with their parents. So sometimes some of these are out of someone's control. I'll give you a prime example. My husband was supporting his parents from the time he was 16. His father became ill, and unfortunately he became ill just after he'd retired from his job at the bank. He didn't have group benefits anymore. My husband supported his parents, and even after his father died, supported his mother until the time she passed away, to keep her from having to only rely on Social Security. He's the one who paid for the tires for her car, for the repairs, everything else. That puts a strain on somebody's financial situation. The other thing too is that personal finances affects our life, it affects our ability to sleep, it affects our self-esteem, it affects our relationships. If you can't pay the bills, you lie awake at night worrying. And people get embarrassed about this stuff. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want anybody else to know about it. So they live with this secret, which affects their own self-esteem and their own self-confidence. And it becomes a big bone of contention between couples. They say two of the biggest things that break people up are money and children. If you are fighting as a couple about your habits at home, then it causes a lot of strain because, and this is, I'm just going to go down a little path for a minute. This is one of the things I write about and talk about with people, and I help financial representatives with this, to get the conversation started with couples that are getting married. I always say, before you say I do, this is what you need to do. And it's to sit down and have a conversation. Do you bring credit? Do you bring a debt load to the marriage? What's your philosophy on savings? Do you save? Don't you save? It's to have those conversations, because if you don't have them before you get married, then shame on you, because you're going to find out while you're married. So financial reps have a big role to play in this whole thing. And one of the things that I've suggested to a lot of representatives as a value add to their group insurance clients, and I used to do it myself when I was dealing with group clients, is as a value add, tell your new client that when you become the agent of record, that your value add is to educate their employees. They don't need to do it, you'll do it. You'll be happy to come in and do lunch and learns. You'll be happy to come to special, evenings where they might want to bring their families together. You are happy to sit down and show these employees how to integrate their group benefits into their own personal planning. Because unfortunately, we know a lot of people are solely dependent upon their group insurance. And we know what can happen in times of, economic restructuring or downsizing or whatever. Sometimes this is a casualty. So financial representatives can play a huge role in helping employers to look really good in the eyes of their employees, and to also help them to add value add at the get-go without having to be asked to do it. So how does this all support mental well-being? It supports mental well-being because employees who are educated, knowledgeable, and understand how their group insurance is paired with their own personal planning, financial reps can help them with their budgeting, which helps to relieve, goes back to what I was talking about before, about losing sleep and self-esteem and fighting and whatever. This can all help to boost somebody's mental well-being, because if a financial representative has helped employers and employees to get their financial well-being in place, it will reflect on their mental well-being on the job. You'll have happier and much more productive employees.